Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his daughter out of my house and forcing them to pay for a hotel? My 34 female brother John 29 male has a kid Emily 12 female who has ADHD. The plan was that they would stay with me at my house for a few days so that they could celebrate Emily's birthday with me. John told me beforehand that, due to Emily's ADHD, she would bring some fidget toys with her, and I said that that's fine, as long as she wouldn't leave them lying around or make a mess. I like to keep a tidy and clean house. My home growing up was always filthy, and I couldn't stand it. When they arrived, I saw that one of the fidget toys John had told me about was that horrid slime stuff, and she was fiddling with it when she walked in. I absolutely detest it. It just makes a sticky mess, so I asked her if she had brought anything else to fiddle with, and she said she forgot her bag of fidget stuff, so she only had this. I didn't want her to be in distress, and I myself have autism, so I also have things for stimming with. I offered them to Emily to see if she wanted them instead, but she said no because she only really likes to fiddle with her own stuff. I told her that's okay, but her slime isn't allowed to leave the room she'll be sleeping in, because that room isn't carpeted. On the second day of their visit, she went up to me, crying, saying she got some of the slime on the floor. I expected it to be on the floor of her own bedroom, where I could get it off relatively easily, but she led me to my bedroom, and it was stuck in the carpet. I told her to leave the room, and that I would deal with it, not shouting or raising my voice, but probably with clenched teeth, as I was pretty angry at not only a violation of the rules I had set up but also of my privacy. She's visited before and knows that my room is out of bounds to her. I managed to clean it, but the dye in it left a stain. I told John that while we could still do all the activities we'd planned, he and Emily had to stay in a hotel for the rest of their trip, as I couldn't trust that this wouldn't happen again. I offered to pay half of the costs, but John declined. It still was a good trip, and Emily had fun on her birthday, but John is nevertheless angry with me for forcing him to pay for a hotel just because Emily made a mistake. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not paying for my daughter to go on vacation with us because she didn't do the small chores that I asked? My husband and I have 5 kids, 4 girls 20, 17, 12, 5 and 1 boy 10. This post is mostly about my oldest daughter. My oldest was in school full-time, but this semester she went from 14 credits to 6 because 2 of her classes, math and science, were too hard. She's currently taking 2 dance classes, which are both online and take approximately an hour per week combined. I'm taking one of them with her so I see how she does them. 1 hour is being generous. She also works at the post office 12 hours per week, but besides that she doesn't have any commitments. We haven't been on a family vacation in years, so this year we're going all out. We're spending 2 weeks at an all-inclusive resort in Mexico. The older 2 were going to get their own room. We were going to fly business there, and plenty of excursions. We've been having a hard time with my oldest, really over the past couple years, but especially over the past week. She's supposed to walk the dog every day, a 10-minute, 15-minute walk, but she does it maybe once a week if we're lucky. I'll ask her if she could pick up groceries on her way back from hanging out with her friends and be home by a certain time, so I could make dinner and she'll show up 3 hours later. Then when she said she would, or I'll ask her to take some meat out of the freezer and she'll forget. I send her multiple reminders. So far this week, on Monday I asked her to walk the dog and pick up some medicine for my 12-year-old at the shopping center that she was already going to. She did neither. On Tuesday I asked her to walk the dog and take the turkey out of the freezer for dinner. She did neither, and she left the gas stove on for 6 hours. Wednesday I asked her to take the trash out, walk the dog, and pick the younger 3 up from school. She didn't do any of those things. I ended up having to ask my 75-year-old neighbor to pick the kids up. By the way, this girl doesn't pay for SH. We pay for her school, her car insurance, maintenance, phone bill, etc., and she still can't be bothered to help out the family. Yesterday after I got home from work and picked the kids up from the neighbor's house, I told my oldest that we will not be paying for her to go on this vacation, and if she keeps this up, she'll have to get out and try living in the real world. She's furious and is saying it's hard for her to do these things because of her ADHD, and my husband is saying I'm being too hard on her. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not backing up my husband when he ordered our adult daughter go to her room? My husband and I have a 22-year-old daughter, Sienna, that lives with us while she attends college. Sienna and I have always been very close. We're a lot alike, share similar interests, etc. We're also both very stubborn. I've always been okay with her voicing her opinions, challenging me, etc. I don't want her to blindly respect me. We occasionally have a tiny tiff or whatever, but we always make up rather quickly. My husband grew up in a very different household. He never would have questioned his mother, even as an adult. They never had any arguments and rather just kept everything bottled in. It's been very hard for him to accept that it's healthy for Sienna to voice her opinions, and to not blindly accept our word. Before anyone asks, he has refused therapy, and I don't see him budging on the issue. My husband often gets irritated when Sienna and I have a disagreement, telling us both to stop. He doesn't want to hear it, etc. I've told him before this is healthy communication. Sienna doesn't speak to him that way out of respect, knowing he doesn't want to have that kind of dynamic. So, it shouldn't matter if she does it with me. Again, we've had several discussions with him about respecting our relationship and how it works. Also keep in mind, Sienna and I are not arguing heavily every day. We may just have a minor disagreement or we'll roll our eyes at one another, joke around, etc. a few times a week. Last night, we sat down for dinner. Sienna was in a bit of a mood as she had a bad day at school. She had already told me she didn't want to talk about it, so I was respecting her. She ended up getting a little snappy when I asked her if she wanted to do something. I just told her there were better ways of answering that and she rolled her eyes. I was ready to let it go when my husband jumped in and told Sienna to go to her room for being disrespectful. She said she's an adult and he said she lives rent-free in his house, she needs to listen. I told him that I didn't mind and he said that he didn't want to hear this attitude. I asked him to leave the table with me and we went in the other room. I once again pointed out that I didn't mind Sienna being a little short with me, as I get why. I also said I know she and I will discuss it later and she'll apologize, we all have bad days. He said he's tired of hearing us squabble and her talk to me like this. I said I'm tired of him trying to control my relationship with her. By his own admission, Sienna won't talk to him that way, so why does it matter? I said Sienna wasn't going to her room unless she wanted to, end of discussion. In the end, my husband went up to our room. He hasn't spoken to me since and things are a little tense. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for pressuring my so to change her dress before a professional event? This morning my so was dressing up for a research symposium she's attending today. The one in which her senior class presented their research took place on Monday, but this time around it is the underclassmen who are presenting their research. On Monday, the seniors were instructed to dress in business casual, but today there was no explicit dress code for those just attending the event. Given this is still a professional academic event, I expected the norm to still be business casual. My so went with a dress that looked very much like this but a much brighter yellow, and sleeves that only went to mid-forearm. I told her that maybe she shouldn't wear this dress and go with something business casual instead, to which she insisted that this was business casual. I replied saying it was casual but not business, and we went back and forth like that a little bit. Ultimately it's her call what she wears and I don't typically try to change that, but this was a professional event, and I subjectively didn't think that dress looked appropriate the occasion. I never was a big fan of this dress to begin with, and called it a grandma dress before, but the reason I had issue with it today wasn't out of personal distaste but for her professional image, as these are the people she will be networking with for the rest of her career. At one point I said I just don't want you to embarrass yourself and her response seemed to indicate that she didn't believe that was my real reason, so I thought she suspected I was just saying this because I personally didn't like the dress. After that back and forth, I thought about that last point and wanted to clarify that this wasn't about my personal taste. What I said came out something like this: I want you to express yourself and it makes me happy when I see you being happy in how you dress, but I only say this because this is a professional event, and I want people to take you seriously. For some context, many of her classmates in her small cohort, and even some faculty had often been dismissive of her inputs, so that was an insecurity she had shared with me before. So I really upset her when I said I just want people to take you seriously, because she essentially heard people don't take you seriously, as if I was trying to change her dress in an attempt to fix her image as if it was something needing fixing. I could have been more clear by saying people might find that dress a little silly or something else that made it clear I was only talking about the dress, and not her personally, if that makes sense. For more context, she is in healthcare, so she's worn scrubs to school almost every day, and she hasn't had many chances to express herself. In the end, she decided to go back and change into her scrubs, which I feel really guilty about.